Saturday here at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. A look at the starting lineup for the Blue Jays. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., some kind of hot right now. Boy, did he hit the ball hard in Boston, as did Bo Bichette. He's hitting in the 2 spot. 8 righties and just 1 lefty. Dalton Varsho dropping down to the 7 spot in the order, as we saw the last time the Blue Jays faced a left-handed starter, and they'll face one tonight in Rich Hill.
The left-hander is 3-2, that ERA over 4, but he is a free agent signing by the Pirates, 1 year, $8 million. He is pitching in his 19th big league season, and his last 4 have been very good after he gave up 7 runs to the White Sox early in April. And last time out against Washington, he pitched into the 7th inning, allowing a couple of runs. This is a guy that is not going to wow you with the velocity. 87.1 miles per hour. It's the lowest average fastball velocity in Major League Baseball. He's got an excellent curveball that he likes to throw a lot. And if there is one problem with this Blue Jays offense, they can struggle with the breaking ball at times, Dan. And behind Rich Hill for the Pirates in the outfield, Brian Reynolds is in left, Jake Suwinski in right, Miguel Andujar in right, Suwinski in center. In the infield around from left to right is Rodolfo Castro, Marcano, Ji-Hwan Bae, Santana, and Austin Hedges will call the signals for Hill.
Hill is ready. George Springer is in the box, and on a beautiful Friday night here in Pittsburgh, we are underway with a strike taken by Springer. Hitting .210 on the season. His last 2 times at bat last night, a walk and a base hit. So maybe he's got a little bit better of a feeling starting off this series here tonight. They tell us it is 67 Fahrenheit. That is around 19 Celsius. And again, just gorgeous here in Pittsburgh. I think the Blue Jays are all glad just to have gained about 20 degrees from the conditions in Boston the last couple of nights.
Beautiful night here. Don't need the layers tonight.
And there are a lot of folks who have evidently crossed the border and come to spend the weekend in Pittsburgh. They are all over the place downtown. Springer with a ground ball to short, and he is thrown out for the first out of the game. Tucupita Marcano making the play. The Pirates a good story themselves, 20-12. As we mentioned, though, they've lost their last 4. They just got swept by Tampa Bay. Only scored 4 runs in the 3-game series, but they are still one of the better stories in baseball so far this season. Bo Bichette, first pitch swinging, and he sends one a long way to left center field, and it's going to drop and be up against the fence as Bichette wastes no time picking up where he left off in Boston.
Bo is not afraid to go up there looking for the breaking ball. You know you are going to get a lot from the left side from Rich Hill. And this one stayed up and in Bo's happy zone. Drills this to deep, deep part of the ballpark in left center field. Rich Hill's putting his arms up. I don't think he thought that ball was hit as well as it was. Or maybe he's thinking it was up in the air a long time. Somebody has to get there.
So it's a double for Bichette, and that'll bring up Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And a fastball at 88 taken low for ball 1. Vladdy 7 for 18, 2 doubles, 2 homers in the series in Boston. And that's going to be a base hit through the left side. Bichette is getting the wave. The throw from Brian Reynolds, not in time, and it bounces to the backstop. Bichette in to score, and Guerrero taking second.
An aggressive send by Luis Rivera at third base, sending Bo home, and he was coming around that third base bag. Vladdy comes around this pitch. Again, not an overpowering fastball at all from Hill, 87 miles per hour, but Bo gets the jump. And you can see where the left fielder's picking up the ball about when he gets to the bag, and ball may have checked up a little bit in the grass. He hangs onto that baseball. That's a real close play.
So the Blue Jays off to a quick start, and it's Bichette and Guerrero in the middle of things again. Here's Matt Chapman. And that slow breaking ball down and in for ball 1. Chapman hitting .351, 5 homers. You know, Rich Hill, he's been seeing Guerreros for a while. He faced Vlad Sr., which I guess shouldn't be a surprise considering that Hill's the oldest player in baseball right now. He's 43. So he has faced Vlad Sr. and Vlad Jr. He has faced Craig Biggio, although Kevin Biggio is not in the lineup tonight. His first major league strikeout was Carlos Delgado when Delgado was a Marlin. Now Chapman with a ground ball to short. Guerrero gets back to second. So point being, Rich Hill has been around for a while. In his first start, which was in 2005, he was a Cub. He was facing the Giants. The Giants had Marquise Grissom and Moises Alou in the lineup. Rich Hill's been at this for a while.
19th big league season, and the Pittsburgh Pirates went out and did that. They went out, got some veterans to really kind of bolster this club, and they're off to a fantastic start. It's still very early. But you think of bringing in G-Man Choi and Carlos Santana, Andrew McCutchen returning to Pittsburgh. How fun is that for the fans?
Yeah, McCutchen out with a sprained ankle tonight, or a sore ankle tonight. He was a late scratch. We found out about 45 minutes before the game that McCutchen would not be in the lineup. Originally he was the DH. Alejandro Kirk with a swinging bunt up the third baseline, and Rodolfo Castro cannot pick it cleanly. An infield hit for Kirk. Guerrero to third.
Well, as a hitter, when you dribble this up the third baseline, you are thinking one thing. Watch Alejandro right out of the box. He's gone. He is sniffing a base hit right here, and if Castro comes up with that, he's got a shot. Would have taken a good play, but he does not come up with it cleanly. And Kirky's got himself another infield hit. Remember how many of those he got last year?
For a guy who doesn't run well, he comes up with a lot of infield hits because he's got that swinging bunt down to a science. So will the Blue Jays be able to take advantage? Here's Whit Merrifield getting the start in left field. Merrifield at .292 on the season. Was not in the starting lineup last night in Boston. Came in middle of the game and wound up going 1 for 2. Well, you got time to look it over, don't you?
Sure do. Well, the thing is, I think what Rich Hill is going to get you to do, and we've seen it already, George did it in the first spot, is you roll over that fastball because it's only 87, 88 miles per hour. It's almost like a changeup that you're accustomed to seeing from most big league pitchers.
It's hit hard but foul down the third baseline. And when you have the reflexes that a major league hitter has, you wait and you wait and you wait, and still sometimes it's still not enough.
And I'm sure that's going to be the game plan for these Blue Jays hitters, knowing that he throws the curveball a lot. It's slow. Fastball's not overpowering. Think, let that ball travel. Let it get deep and just think of taking him to right field.
Down and in, 2-2. The Pirates, the 12th different team that Hill has pitched for in his 19-year career, and that doesn't count 3 different stints with the Red Sox. And this one is lifted down the right field line, and Miguel Andujar makes the catch, and the side is retired. But the Blue Jays do score early. Bichette got it started with a double and slides home with a base hit by Guerrero. It's 1-0. And Reynolds is off to a very good start and currently on a 9-game hitting streak, got 8 doubles in those 9 games. Again, Andrew McCutchen, a late scratch, and 2 other regulars, Connor Joe and Key Brian Hayes, a little sore after 3 days down at the Trop playing the Rays. So they are out of the lineup. The turf did not agree with them, so Chris Bassett is not facing the best lineup the Pirates have to offer.
And for Bassett, that ERA has crept up over 5 again. Walks have been an issue, and in his last start against the Mariners, he walked 4 over his 5 innings of work. But it was a couple walks in the first inning before hitting Teoscar and giving up that grand slam to Taylor Trammell. He was down in that ball game early. Blue Jays came back, but ended up losing it in 10 innings.
Ji-Hwan Bae will lead it off against Bassett here in the bottom of the first. Bae hitting .253. And he is among major league leaders in stolen bases with 13. And we'll just drop this storyline in here early tonight. No team has stolen more bases this year than the Pirates. They have 44 steals in 32 games. And 22 steals in their last 10 games. And the Red Sox just went 9 for 9 against the Blue Jays, stealing bases in the 4-game series in Boston. And as John Schneider pointed out in his pregame session with the media, it was a major topic of conversation in their meeting today leading into the series.
And I think what Arden alluded to when John Schneider says we need to pay more attention to detail, that's exactly what he means. And he said we got exposed. And how do you get exposed? You start getting a little bit complacent, not paying attention to those runners, allow them to get great jumps, don't alter your delivery times, and we're going to find out right here early in this ball game as Chris Bassett's going to be one to make an adjustment.
Yeah, not the way he wanted to begin the game, to put a guy who's such a good base stealer on. John Schneider said things like lacked attentiveness, as you mentioned, got exposed. He said it's kind of like watching an NFL, like a film from an NFL game. Other teams watch stuff after the game and they can see what happened. And he thinks the Pirates will try to be aggressive. Bay not going on the first pitch.
And a lot of it, Dan, it comes down to simple math. Pitchers, ideally, you want them to be about 1.3, 1.4 seconds with their delivery to the plate. Their first move till the time the ball enters the catcher's mitt. Major league average, and both Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen are right around there, 2.0 seconds. So you add the 2.0 from the time they catch it to the throw getting down into the infielder's glove at second base. With the pitcher's 1.4, that's 3.4. That's a pretty good base runner right there. Accuracy, of course, is also important.
Bay not going, and it's into the top of the zone, 1-1. Schneider mentioned you got to vary your times. You got to think about a slide step. You got to have a good pickoff move. And we heard a phrase today we do not hear much in baseball anymore. He even broached the possibility of a pitch out.
You have to help the catchers out any way you can.
There he goes. Pitch taken. Throw down, and a stolen base for Bay, his 14th on the season.
Every team in Major League Baseball is going to know this now too. Now, I'm not sure what Bassett's time to the plate is right now, but if he's 1.5 or 1.6, Kevin Gausman was 1.7 and 1.8 in Boston. You do that with your catcher being 2. You're not throwing many people out there because most guys are getting there well under 3.7, 3.8.
And now 3 balls and a strike on Reynolds with a runner at second and nobody out. Reynolds generating some headlines in the offseason, requested a trade. The Pirates did not trade him, clearly, and eventually, just recently, they agreed to an 8-year deal for $106 million. Play on at second, but back in easily. And this is who the Pirates are and who they want to be. They want to get in the heads of opposing teams and always be a threat on the bases. And he's going again. It's a strike. Throw down. Out at third. So trying to steal third with nobody out and a left-handed batter at the plate. Extremely aggressive. And pending a possible challenge as of now, Jansen threw Bay out.
You can see how he tried to get that little secondary lead, and he did, but he wasn't very far off the bag. And credit Bo Bichette for being back there, keeping him close. So he didn't get the best of leads going into that jump.
And the Pirates won't challenge. It almost looked like the tag got on and stayed, like his upper half left the bag before his lower half got there, but Matt Chapman kept the tag on him. I'm not sure that it beat him there, but one way or another, he's out. And that is a big out. And here comes another one as Reynolds pops up and suddenly 2 down.
It's like as Matt goes to apply the tag, so he misses. That arm gets in front of Matt's leg, but he gets him on the leg before that right arm hooks around.
Yeah,
and Bay didn't really argue at all. I think he knew exactly that that's what happened. Now remember, a fielder can kind of drop that leg in front of the base because you're in the act of receiving the baseball. Is it fair? No. But you see infielders do it all the time.
You know, and I get, we just talked at length about how aggressive they are. But nobody stealing third with nobody out and a left-handed batter at the plate, that is really, really, really aggressive.
Especially with that lead that we saw. Yeah. And that's all it took was for Bassett and Bo to put a pickoff on early, so then Bay was closer to the bag. If he is 2 or 3 more feet off second base with his lead, he's safe right there probably. And Danny knew he had to hurry and come up with a perfect throw.
And an equally good play by Chapman down at third. 0-2 the count on Carlos Santana, new to the Pirates this year. And he went around, and just like that the inning is over. So Bassett makes some pitches and Jansen throws out Bay, and it's 1-0 Blue Jays at the end of an inning.
Good, and that's great to see from the left-handed bat in this Blue Jays lineup, the only one tonight against the lefty Hill. And we know he loves to do that against left-handed pitchers. But it was a matter of time for Dalton. And when he came over to the Blue Jays, of course, we knew about that pull power that he has and that he's an outstanding outfielder and base runner. It took a while to get that bat going. Think of how deep now, Dan, at the top of this lineup. And George probably isn't back where he wants to be just yet. But when you think of Bo and Vladdy and Chapman and Varsho, it starts getting pretty deep.
Varsho bunts it foul. 1-2. Again, as Joe said, loves to do it against the lefties. It's funny because the way the Pirates were playing it and even the way they reacted when he squared suggested they thought the bunt was going to go to third base. The bunt never goes to third base when he does this. He tries to bunt it past the pitcher and towards the first baseman to make him make a play on the ball. But he couldn't get it down, so now it's off the table.
Santana does not want to be coming too hard at first, because if Hill goes over there, that's ideally what you want to do if you're the hitter. Is Dalton wants to get it toward the second baseman so that it's past the pitcher. Once it's past the pitcher, it's a base hit. The first baseman has to make the decision to either go for the ball. If he does, there'll be nobody at first. I think Dalton can beat Rich Hill to first base.
And a swing and a miss at that slow curveball as Varsho strikes out.
Rich Hill will throw it a lot. It drops down this time against the left-handed batter, just giving you a different look. He will change speeds, he will change arm angles, change the spin. All about deceiving the hitter.
Yeah, he's got a lot of tricks. He's a month younger than John Schneider, and he is still pitching and pitching very capably in the big leagues. It feels like he's been on like 1-year deals for about 8 years now, but he just keeps feeling good and somebody keeps wanting to sign him. He's a good teammate, good veteran presence, and again, he can help. You know, he's not an ace on a championship team, but he can solidify a rotation for you.
And think of where the Pittsburgh Pirates were coming into this season. You bring in a veteran like this, you're probably counting on pretty solid performance. You get the age, the wisdom to bring into this club as they're continuing to plug forward.
Interesting guy. If you ever interview him, he'll sit there and talk forever and give you long, very thoughtful answers. There's not a cliche in his bag of tricks at all. And he's got the breaking ball, doesn't he? 2 down. Well, if you're not going to be overpowering, you better have a lot of different ways to try to get guys out. He throws a lot of pitches at a lot of different velocities.
And that's the thing, is 87.3 with that four-seamer. That's the quickest one that gets to the plate, but look at them all as you go back. Now, the slow curve, the sweeper we saw him strike out Varsho with. So as a hitter, just think of all of those speeds that you have to continue to try to time up. And that's why with pitchers like this, hitters will say, jam yourself, let the ball beat you, but it's easier said than done.
Santiago Espinal looks at his strike. Espinal getting a start at second base tonight. Every right-handed batter the Blue Jays have is in there against Hill. The 4 guys on the bench are all lefties. Over the outside corner, 1-2.
Something spinning here. They know SB's a better fastball hitter.
Dropped down and got him. And Rich Hill just struck out the side.
He said to me, have you seen his RPMs? No one spins it like Rich does.
And that's one of the reasons why he's been able to stick around as long as he has. So Chris Bassett learning some things back when he was a much younger pitcher from Rich Hill. Jack Sawinski leading off the bottom of the second for the Pirates. He is their center fielder, hitting .250 at an OPS over 900. They're getting great production out of their outfielders, Brian Reynolds, Jack Sawinski, and Connor Joe, although Joe not in the lineup tonight. I think they've been a surprise, this team, both on offense and pitching, in terms of the numbers that they are putting up. Sawinski, formerly a 15th round pick of the San Diego Padres, was traded to Pittsburgh 2 years ago, along with Tucupita Marcano, who's playing shortstop tonight. Adam Frazier, veteran player then and now, went the other way. And Sawinski looks like he is really turning into something here a couple of years later. But not this time. Slow breaking ball from Bassett to get him one down.
Took a page out of the Rich Hill book right there. Chris Bassett can't say he didn't take anything from Rich Hill, because you do see those similarities. And Bassett right there is taking a little extra off. 72 miles per hour. And that coming after that fastball at the top of the zone. That is the art of pitching right there. Changing speeds, changing locations.
So one down. Here's Miguel Andujar, the former Yankee. A guy who came up with all kinds of hype and actually had a terrific rookie year back in 2018. Hit 27 home runs, finished runner-up for the Rookie of the Year award that season. Shohei Ohtani edged him out for the award that year.
That guy.
You can live with that. But that was kind of as good as it got for Andujar with the Yankees. They kept trying him at different positions, couldn't really find one. Eventually, the Pirates claimed him on waivers. And he bounces one to the first base side of the mound. Bassett to Guerrero, 2 down. You know, it's interesting. I was in the Pirates booth talking with their announcers, Greg Brown and Neil Walker, who had a terrific career, Pittsburgh native. And Walker was asking me about Bassett, and he said it looked like the first start against the Cardinals didn't go very well. And I explained it to him, like 2 home runs on the first 3 pitches, like it really didn't go well. And then 4 great starts. And he said, what about the last one? And I told him about, you know, the pitch to Kelnick and then eventually the grand slam. And he said, so really, like for the most part, he's been really good, right? Just a blow up here and then that weird inning there. And I said, actually, yeah, like now that you put it that way, you know, the 4 starts in between were remarkably consistent. And I think consistency is a word you hear a lot about Chris Bassett. That's what the Blue Jays are looking for from a guy who, as of now at least, is, you know, in the middle of their rotation, the number 3 guy.
He is a veteran pitcher that I think the Blue Jays acquired because A, he's going to take the ball every 5 days and probably give you 180, 185 innings, which is invaluable in your rotation, and they're going to be pretty good innings. He's thinking right now before he goes to that transmitter. Still thinking, okay, now this is where I want to go. The wheels are spinning. Very cerebral pitcher on the mound with a game plan.
Ooh. Boy, and that is a late time call.
That's where you wish your pitcher would just continue his windup and throw the pitch, but it's just human nature. Your first reaction when you see this is to stop because you're startled, just like we were.
That's too late. He's
way
in his
too
motion
late.
already.
Way too late.
That's too late.
No way. Clint Vondrack should have shown.
No.
Given him time.
So that was a timeout taken there by Castro, but Bassett had clearly started his delivery. And a hitter can't call timeout. He requests timeout, right? But it has to be granted by the umpire. I mean, he can call timeout, but it's not a timeout until the umpire says it's a timeout. Now 3-2 the count.
Just missing. He tried to come in with that sinker, but it looked like it may have caught the top of the zone, and the box is bouncing around a little bit on your TV screen, but just above it.
And missed just high to put him on. The second walk he's issued tonight. So a 2-out walk will bring up Tucupita Marcano, the shortstop tonight. The guy who was supposed to be the shortstop for the Pirates and will again, but is O'Neal Cruz, tremendously talented young player, but he fractured his ankle a few weeks ago in a slide at home plate. He's out till about August. Marcano is 23 years of age from Venezuela, and again he came in the same deal from the Padres that Sawinski did. He's in his second year with the Pirates right now, hitting .243 in 37 at bats. This one to left field, and a diving attempt by Merrifield, but it pops out of his glove, and Castro will come around to third on a base hit by Marcano.
Good effort by Merrifield. It looked like he was going to make the catch. Coming in on this looping liner into shallow left field, and I thought he had it in his glove, Dan. It looked like as he just fell forward. Had it right there, but then the flick of his glove bracing his landing is when it kind of popped out. That's a frustrating one.
Yeah, good effort and almost had it for a moment, but it goes as a base hit. And it's runners at first and third for Mark Mathias, the designated hitter tonight for the Pirates. And Bassett starts him with a strike. Mathias, former third-round pick of Cleveland back in 2015. And he's appeared in the big leagues for 3 different teams already: Milwaukee, Texas, and now Pittsburgh. And you can see, again, guys who are not household names. We talked to Derek Shelton, the manager, before the game. They're getting contributions from people. This has been a team effort for the Pirates to get off to a 20-12 start, the last 4 games notwithstanding. They've lost all of those, but they're still in a pretty good place right now.
And there's that attempt to control the running game. 2 strikes, 2 outs. Danny Jansen putting on some signs for his middle infielders. Probably going to eat this and not throw if they do try to steal a run here.
Runner not going, and it's bounced in and away from Jansen. Bassett is there to meet the runner at the plate and end the inning. Castro tried to score, and Jansen fed Bassett in plenty of time. And the Pirates are done in the bottom of the second. Fortunately, no big collision. Everybody's okay. Jansen quickly to it, and Bassett alertly to the plate in plenty of time. In the boat on the Allegheny River, and here's where we are, high above the plate. Wave to the folks, Joe.
Hello, folks.
Scotty, wave to this.
Hello,
Scotty
folks.
knows how to. Scotty knows
Watching
to
the
wave.
boat go by under the
Yeah.
bridge. Under the Clemente Bridge.
George Springer lines one to left, and that gave Reynolds a little bit of trouble, but he makes the catch. And I think this one between the bridge and the river and the nooks and crannies and the tributes to Clemente, they did this one right. They didn't miss a thing when they built this one.
Beautiful vantage point for the fans in the seats too, overlooking the river with the bridges in the background, and downtown Pittsburgh.
Here's Bo Bichette, doubled and scored back in the first when the Blue Jays took an early lead. And as you can see on the first base side of the field, there's a lot of blue in the house. We saw him walking around downtown. We saw him walking over the bridge to get here. And they were in, we came here about, 3.5 hours before the game. And a lot of them were in the bars around the ballpark.
Having lunch.
Before
they come to the ballpark.
Only about a 5-hour drive from Toronto. Nice weekend series. Well, I guess maybe they weren't walking over the bridge because the Clemente Bridge is under construction right now. So you cannot walk over the Clemente Bridge right now, but maybe walking over the second one, the one that we drove over. But it's great. And talking to some of the Blue Jays today, they went out to get their coffee or their lunch or whatever, and you couldn't walk 20 feet near the hotel without seeing a lot of Blue Jay fans.
Players love playing in beautiful stadiums too. And you come from Boston, which is beautiful in its own right because of the history. But when players come here, Vladdy's taken all the way there.
Yeah. That's kind of our vantage point here. High above home plate. And it's funny, you look to the third base side of the field and it's like 90-95% black jerseys or yellow jerseys. Everybody knows, Blue Jay fans know which side the Blue Jays are on, because then you look to your right and it's mostly blue.
Watching the different deliveries from Rich Hill, he would drop down. That one was a little bit of a leg kick out there and hesitation.
Should have asked Vladdy before the game since his dad faced him. Like, do you call your dad and say, "Dad, what's he got?" That's not a call you can make very often when you're a major league player.
There's a hesitation.
Yep. Drops down. 63. A 63-mile-an-hour breaking ball that is caught out and right by Andujar. Vladdy says, all right. Rich Hill got him.
They added some veterans. I think Derek Shelton, the manager, would even say he's surprised by the start, but that's a nice thing when you're the manager of the club early in the season, getting off to that red-hot start. The rotation has been very good, and when you watch a guy like Rich Hill work, you wonder, or you know why they went out and got him. Just very, very steady.
So Mark Mathias, the DH, is up again after the play at the plate ended the last inning. Derek Shelton was a coach with the Blue Jays in 2016. Wasn't quite as great. He had a little more pepper, not quite as much salt back in the days.
Managing will do it.
But he walked into his media session. He doesn't do it in his office. They do it in like a press conference room. And I guess he was just walking in and expecting to see the normal local Pittsburgh media. And then he just kind of looked around, sat down, and he saw you and me, and we knew him from when he coached with the Blue Jays. And all of a sudden, it was like he came out of character, and he went, "Hey guys," like that. Hey guys, and he's a great guy, absolutely great guy, and he still has contacts and friends. He knows John Schneider, he knows Kevin Kiermaier very well because Shelton spent a number of years with the Rays. And it was Danny Jansen, right? A very young Danny Jansen is one of the few players that he knew back then as Bassett strikes out Mathias.
He referred to it way back when Danny turned to the glasses. Remember, he started wearing the glasses.
Yeah.
It was a big transition for Danny as he was coming up.
But a good man, good person, and a good baseball man, and a very positive guy, too. Third strikeout for Bassett. Here's Austin Hedges, the Pirates catcher. Good defensive player, has never been much of a hitter. He's hitting 133 this year, and he is a 188 career hitter.
And how about maybe giving the guy behind the plate a little credit too for this pitching staff and their performance, because that's another thing. You bring in a guy that, yes, Austin Hedges is not going to hit much for you, but everywhere he's been, he's had that reputation of a guy that can receive and call a game and handle the pitching staff, and they're doing a pretty good job here early on.
72-mile-an-hour breaking ball fouled back. Again, these are the two slowest breaking ball pitchers in baseball, Rich Hill and Chris Bassett. Their average curveball velocity. And Hill's gotten a little tricky. He has even dropped down the velocity a couple of times, down near 63. One to Bichette and one to Guerrero. There it is. Technically, Bassett throws his curveball even a little bit slower on average than Hill does his. Up the middle, and that's through into center field. A base hit for Hedges.
Take on any project with Home Hardware, proud partner of the Toronto Blue Jays. Here's how.
Now the Blue Jays glad to have left Boston, glad to be here in Pittsburgh, and we are glad you're along with us for the opening game of this series. The Jays up 1-0 on the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. RBI single in the first. Runner at first, one out for the Pirates, and here's Ji-hwan Bae.
And I think Bassett will try to do a better job at pounding the zone against this guy. Now we got to keep him off the base pass, I'm sure, is his thinking. Make him beat you at the bat.
And jumps out in front 0-2. Bae appeared in 10 games last year, so he still has rookie eligibility this season, and he's a regular this year for the Pirates. away ball one.
Little bluff by the runner at first base, and that's all it is, a bluff. But I always hated that as a catcher, because it doesn't matter who's over there. If you see those feet moving out of the corner of your eye, it makes you come out of your stance slightly, and then you could lose that pitch for your pitcher on a borderline call.
And it's one of the many ways where a team that is fast and aggressive on the bases, it's not just the bases they steal. They can impact the game in other ways because of the threat of the speed they have.
Absolutely. And you know, that threat of that speed, yes, they're leading the world in stolen bases, but we've seen them running a little too much tonight, including that ball that got by Danny Jansen that there will retire him at the plate.
Popped up shallow right, going back Espinal, and he's there in plenty of time. John Schneider made an interesting point about the way the Red Sox were playing and starting a runner, just to your point about a runner starting. He said, you know what, you start a runner, you open up a hole, the ball goes through, and the runner goes from first to third because he was moving on the play. Now because there's a runner at third, you got to bring the infield in. Now it's easier for them to get a base hit if they put the ball in play because the infield is in, and so on and so on. And he talked about this kind of domino effect that when teams play that style and make contact, little innings can become big innings in a hurry.
Yeah. And I think, too, when you look at the 4 days in Boston especially, and I know it started with the Seattle comeback on Sunday in Toronto, but was that not just 4 days where it was just this vibe, this feel, and it happens in baseball where you just can't seem to do things right and you're kicking the ball around a little bit and the other team just takes advantage of every little thing that you're not doing right. And that's what he means by they exposed us. Maybe if that happens against a different team, maybe from the Central, the White Sox or Kansas City or something, it's not a big deal. But it happened at Fenway Park in Boston against your division rival 4 straight days.
Well, and probably good that with Pittsburgh being the kind of team that they are, that it was topic number 1 during the meeting today. A normal meeting, like just at the beginning of every series. This was not an out of the ordinary meeting. And there's a swing and a miss as Reynolds strikes out. So Bassett with 2 strikeouts in the inning and 4 through 3 scoreless innings here tonight. Is here in Pittsburgh this weekend. Glad to see all of them. It is 1-0 Blue Jays going to the top of the 4th. Matt Chapman is leading it off against Rich Hill. And that curveball lined to short, and a terrific leaping catch made by Tucupita Marcano.
Timed that jump. This ball was hit hard by Chapman, but he timed his jump perfectly. He's having a little chuckle with himself, but his pitcher sure loves the defense behind him. Gotta love making great plays.
Now Alejandro Kirk, who had an infield hit his first time up. Kirk DHing tonight. Danny Jansen catching, all the right-handed bats in there. I like the leg swing, the leg kick follow through by Hill. I dig the whole thing. He's been doing this forever, and he's good for baseball. Timeout taken by Kirk. And a slow curve bounce down to third. Castro will make the play, 2 down, and that's 9 in a row now set down by Rich Hill. Another night game tomorrow and a day game Sunday before the Blue Jays head off to Philadelphia. They've got an off day Monday and then a quick 2-game series with the Phillies before they come back home for a long and interesting homestand. How about Atlanta, the Yankees, and the Orioles coming to town?
There doesn't seem to be any soft spots in the schedule. Coming out of spring training, you thought you saw some.
Whit Merrifield's going to drop one down the line and left, and he's going to head to second, and he's going to be in there with a double. He can still run.
When Whit does that, hits it down that left field line like that. Anything borderline, he is thinking 2 right out of the batter's box. And there are times he rounds first base. He's not even looking. Usually you'll pick up the left fielder because he got to this ball fairly quickly on the one hop. But the off-balance throw, and he's thinking 2 right out of the box.
Yeah, you're right. He made up his mind as soon as he left the box that he was going to second base.
He's not looking at that fielder.
That's interesting. So that's just experience and instincts, right?
I think he knows where the left fielder was playing. He knows where he hit the baseball. He puts 2 and 2 together, and he just knows that he's got a shot to get to second base. I like this lineup, Dan. This is where John Schneider, against left-handed pitching, he's done that. Oftentimes takes that opportunity to give Kiermaier a day off his feet, but you get Merrifield in there in left field, Espinal at second base. Varsho, the only lefty in the lineup. Got a lot of moving pieces, but he also has some struggling hitters, and there's that tough balance.
Righties on the mound for the Pirates each of the next 2 games. So Kevin Kiermaier is going to have to wait a day to play in this ballpark. He has never played here. I think the Rays came here a couple of times when he was with them, but he was on the IL each time. And he told us this will be his 28th park. He has still not been to Arizona or Milwaukee. And unfortunately for Kevin, both of those are coming to Toronto this year. So there goes Merrifield. He got a big jump.
Does anybody do that better than Whit Merrifield? And what I'm referring to is stealing third base. He will just pick a pitcher apart. Watch Whit here. He's just timing him. He knows that Hill's not looking back. So what he does is he uses a pitch or 2 or 3 to read that, and then he's gone. No chance.
And now a liner, a fair ball into the right field corner. Merrifield in to score, and Varsho on his way to second with an RBI double. It is 2-0.
Well, I think Whit scores on that regardless, but what a nice piece of hitting. You see the adjustability in that swing from Dalton Varsho, and I think that's one of the things I've noticed too with his new approach. Earlier when he had that stride foot that he would stick out there, stop, and then start up again, didn't have that adjustability in the swing. He was really riding that backside there to stay with it.
So how about a 2-out rally after Chapman and Kirk were retired? Merrifield doubles, steals third. Varsho doubles him home. And here's Danny Jansen, who struck out in his first look at Rich Hill. Outside, 1-1.
And for a team that does not hit the breaking ball real well, Blue Jays have hit a couple breaking balls here.
That's a high breaking ball there, foul back, 1-2. Hill twice this year has thrown over 100 pitches in a game. Again, he's done a pretty nice job. Most of the damage he gave up all came in one start. He gave up 7 earned runs in one start, no more than 3 earned runs in any of the others. And a dribbler foul up the third baseline, and Hill alertly gets to it before it had a chance to come back fair.
Interesting that Whit Merrifield will steal third base when he did, but I think what's happening here, and Varsho looked like he had his feet shuffling there too. Even though there are 2 outs, if you're going to get the 90 feet for free, they'll take it. But those are the situations where, unlike what Ji-Hwan Bae did for the Pirates, you have to make sure.
Again, the 1-2, and that's down and in, and Jansen's got to dance out of the way, but because it was coming in at 73, he had a little bit more time to dance out of the way.
That breaking ball just keeps coming and coming. Took the feet right out from under him.
Two-2. And a fly ball lifted to left field. Reynolds jogging in and is there. But the Blue Jays get a run thanks to Merrifield and Varsho. Now lead 2-0.
Again, because the problem hasn't been contact for Varsho, it has been the quality of contact. We're seeing much more of that right now.
Arden, thank you very much. And Joe, it's so interesting. So Matt Chapman incorporates a toe tap, and it works great for him. Dalton Varsho eliminates a toe tap, and it's working great for him.
Hitting 101, and you know what? Each one of them might go back to it at some point. This is what hitters do. They adapt on the fly, and Matt Chapman found something that he thought will help him stay behind the baseball a little bit more, be a more complete hitter. Not worried about his power. He knows he has power. Dalton, on the other hand, was trying something with that little reaching out with his stride foot, but it was stagnant. It was like a two-part process, and when you reach out, start, and then stop, now you're kind of stuck in that backside. And I think with that leg kick, it's really freed him up. And Arden used the word athletic, and I think that's so true for a hitter, to be able to lift that leg and then decide to swing when they want. Much more fluid.
3-1 the count on Carlos Santana. Bassett struck him out in the first. Santana, guy who has been around, of course, a lot of years with Cleveland, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Seattle, of course, last year. Hit a big home run in the wild card series. And one thing that he has always been able to do, Joe, is judge the strike zone as he takes a walk.
And that's tough for Chris because Bassett has had an issue with the free passes this season. We talked about his last start against Seattle where he walked a couple, had a call not go his way, but he walked a couple, then he hit Teoscar Hernandez, and those are the things that lead you to trouble. And the grand slam followed.
Yeah, last year Bassett walked 49 in 181 and 2/3 innings. Very good ratio. This year he has walked now 19 in 36 innings. So that's more than 4.5 per 9, obviously, and that's just some extra base runners that he would just as soon do without. This is not like this has not been a thing for Bassett in his career, so he is still working to get his normal command going this year. But as we have seen, he's consistent. He gets you deep into the game. You know, he'll get you 6 innings if things are going all right. Gets a lot of soft contact. And we've seen a few times him looking for the top of the strike zone with the sinker, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but clearly it's something he's trying to do.
Absolutely. This is what he's trying to do. It's a sinker more at the top of the zone, and believe it or not, you can still get ground balls on those pitches. Not as many this year.
You can get a called strike 3 on one of those pitches too sometimes.
You know, and where I was going with the ground ball thing is, as a hitter, you see that sinker at the top of the zone. It's almost coming up. You think it's a four-seamer. You think you may be getting on top of it. And when it sinks down like that, you catch the top of the baseball and it's a ground ball. But also, it may freeze you because you give up on it thinking it's high.
So 1 down, and here's Miguel Andujar. Grounded out his first time up, and that foul ball went right off Clint Vondrack, the home plate umpire. And he seems to be all right. Put the mask on right away, but Danny Jansen and Chris Bassett will take a little bit of extra time with Vondrack's blessing right now. The clock has not started yet. Now Vondrack just signaled that time has started. 20 seconds because there's a runner on base, so Bassett's got plenty of time. Boy, Santana's doing all kinds of stuff over there, not with his legs, just with his right arm. He's waving his right arm around, and he is not a guy you would think would try to steal a base.
We saw Austin Hedges bluffing. Watch the arm go, and he's just trying to disrupt the timing of Bassett. Bassett can see that in his peripheral vision, so he's like, okay, I'll throw over there and try to stop that nonsense for a minute.
He's doing it again. And now 1 cent in the air to very shallow center field, but it's hanging up long enough for Varsho to come in and make the catch. 2 down. The NBA playoffs continue on Sportsnet. Tonight, the Suns return home after dropping the first 2 games of their series in Denver. Don't miss Game 3, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on Sportsnet 360 and Sportsnet Now. No shortage of things to watch on your television if you are a sports fan, with the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and of course everything that's going on in baseball. This is Rodolfo Castro, the third baseman. He walked his first time up. Interesting again, and we just mentioned it very briefly off the top of the show, that 2 Pirates, Key Brian Hayes, who would be at third base if he were in the lineup, and Connor Joe, both out of the lineup, just some soreness after playing 3 days down against the Rays at the Trop. And of course the Rays do it all the time, and of course the Blue Jays do it all the time, playing on turf, although the turf is a little bit different in Toronto than it is in St. Pete. But evidently players who play on natural grass are not used to it, and so you'll often see their manager either have them skip a game on turf, or in this case sit out a game right after because they're sore.
And who knows that better than Derek Shelton? Spending some time with the Rays, and it's a thing. Guys will feel it, especially when you're not accustomed to it.
So the Pirates a little bit short-handed tonight. And the Blue Jays trying to take advantage and end this 5-game losing streak. 2-2 to Castro. And he lines it softly into left for a base hit. Santana is going to try for third, and it is a poor decision. The play right in front of him. He just made the third out of the inning at third base, and that is the third base runner the Pirates have lost tonight. A good throw from left by Merrifield, a good tag from Chapman. The fun baseball down at Rogers Center. The Blue Jays up 2-0 as this game moves to the top of the 5th. Santiago Espinal getting his second look at Rich Hill. Meanwhile, the Pirates are doing the Blue Jays some favors tonight, and yeah, the book on them was aggressive, and they can really make some things happen on the bases, but there have been some poor choices tonight, like just the timing of the situation. A guy as slow as Carlos Santana trying to go first to third on a single with 2 outs, like there's just no reason to do it.
It's one thing to be aggressive on the base pass, and of course Derek Shelton's team trying to play an aggressive style of play. But what the Blue Jays have done, different than what we saw in Boston, is they're executing, and they're making them pay for making those base running mistakes.
It has gotten Chris Bassett some outs. It has kept his pitch count down. The Pirates have lost 2 runners at third base and 1 at home plate.
And the 3 mistakes they've made was Danny Jansen made a great throw to third base to get the base stealer, who didn't get a great jump or a great lead. Think of the wild pitch, the ball that got by Danny. He gets on it in a hurry, flips it to Bassett very quickly so that he has it in his glove and then can alter his feet around the plate to tag the runner. And then Witt right there in left field coming up and making a quick throw.
George Springer, the batter, he's 0 for 2 as he takes a strike. Espinal at first with a leadoff walk here in the 5th. And a 68-mile-an-hour breaking ball in there, 0-2. Might have thrown the ball harder to first right there than he threw the last pitch to Springer.
And good arm angle over there.
Yeah.
Drop down.
Yeah. Mark Budzinski helping Espinal get the gear on.
Hill can just do so many things. He's been around the game so long and seen so many things. He knows. We talked about the Blue Jays pitchers altering their deliveries, maybe slide stepping. He's well aware of it, even though from the left side.
Pretty big lead over there by Espinal. And he'll draw another throw. So that is the second disengagement. And now if Hill goes over there again, he's got to pick him off or it's a balk. So again, the theory is if you're Espinal, even if you're not running, you can get a bigger lead.
And I'm sure Hill will abbreviate his delivery now. Probably a little slide step.
Yep.
There it is.
Springer drives one to deep center field. And it's gone. And how good must that feel for George Springer? He has been waiting for the big hit, for the big moment, and he hits a long 2-run homer to extend the lead to 4-0.
The Blue Jays have hit Rich Hill's curveball very hard. It's a great offensive approach against a veteran left-hander that you know it's not going to overpower you, and part of that is the approach you go into a game. This is meetings, this is going over tape, and they have done the right thing.
And now a liner and another great catch, this time by Ji-Hwan Bae to take a base hit away from Bichette.
George had seen some pitches at the top of the zone, including a slower breaking ball earlier, and this one stays up as well, and he's all over it.
And the relievers knew. Look at the bullpen. They knew before the ball left the yard that it was going to leave the yard. And Springer seemed to have a pretty good idea as well. 423 feet.
He had a great swing in his previous at-bat, lining out to shortstop. We saw, you had mentioned it. Remember that last at-bat he had in Boston last night? He hit a ball hard to right field for a base hit, and you're thinking, is that something that can get you going? Yeah, it's a better approach for sure.
Here's Vladdy, 1 for 2, had an RBI single in the first. He's not having much fun right now. He's like, could you just throw me a 94-mile-an-hour fastball and we'll see what I can do with it? But it's all kinds of different velocities and arm angles. And he takes one right down the middle for strike 3 called as we go down to field level and Arden Zwelling.
Well, you mentioned it, Dan. That swing has to feel good for George Springer, and I think it's going to feel good for Blue Jays hitting coach Guillermo Martinez as well, who told me before today's game that Springer has been wearing him out in the batting cages before these games this week. He's been pulling everything, Springer has, and Guillermo Martinez and Springer have been working hard before games to iron out that tendency. Guys, we talked to John Schneider before the game in Boston a few days ago. He said he sat in on one of those hitting sessions, felt really confident about where Springer was getting with his swing.
And a very good sign right there with that long home run to left center. I think, you know, if you're Guillermo Martinez, John Schneider, Hunter Mentz, Dave Hudgens, whomever, you kind of dream about, okay, so Bichette, Guerrero, and Chapman have been going. Varsho's just getting going. If Springer can get going, I mean, you know, the way baseball works, somebody gets hot, somebody else cools off. But I think everybody who's got a bat on this team thinks that there's more in this offense overall that we have seen so far this year as Chapman launches one to the deepest part of the park, right to the 410 marker, on his way to third, and he is out. So Chapman just made the third out of an inning at third base. Double and out, trying to stretch it into a triple. Good relay by the Pirates to get him. The home run by Springer. It would have been a home run in 24 out of 30 parks. But here in Pittsburgh, it's in play in the gap in left center, and he tried to stretch it into a triple.
You don't get too many opportunities for a triple during a season, and Matt Chapman thought he had an opportunity to here, but this is a base running mistake. This is not what you want to do, is make that last out at third base. Give credit to the relay, an excellent relay throw, a strong throw, and right on the money at third, but you can't take that gamble.
So it is 4-0 Blue Jays going to the bottom of the fifth. All kinds of interesting stuff going on the base paths tonight. And the other story is Chris Bassett is pitching well. He's got 4 scoreless innings. Ground ball out to second, staggers Espinal for a moment, but he recovers to get Marcano one down. Bassett has given up 3 hits, and he's also walked 3. But he's made good pitches with men on base, and again, the Pirates have had 3 men thrown out on the bases. That never hurts.
The time, the situation of the game, the scoreboard tells you a lot, and with what Chapman did, they have a 4-0 lead. If you're ever going to take a gamble, that's the time when you play the scoreboard like that, but not when you're the Pirates and you're behind.
Now Mark Mathias, the DH, lifts one foul down the line. It's a franchise with a ton of history, of course. They were originally known as the Pittsburgh Alleghenies. As Mathias grounds one down to third. Chapman the play, 2 down. They changed their name to the Pirates in 1891. 1891. They joined the National League in 1887, became the Pirates in 91. They've won 5 World Series. The last one in 1979. And when you think about some of the greats the game has ever seen, Hannes Wagner, Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, there's a lot of history, a very rich tradition here for the Pittsburgh Pirates. This park is in its 23rd year.
Wow.
Yeah, blew me away when I looked at it. I couldn't believe that.
It's outside. It's outside.
Of course, I still think Camden Yards is a new ballpark. That was really the first one of the new generation of ballparks.
Yeah, that was 92, I believe it opened. There's a strike, and it's 2-1 on Austin Hedges. Yeah, and then all of Seattle and Cleveland and Texas and Colorado and Pittsburgh. So many ballparks were built in the 90s or the early 2000s. A drive to right center. Springer and Varsho converge, and Springer wants it and takes it.
Look at George.
3 up, 3 down. Go the Pirates in the bottom of the 5th. And it's been like that since the day Varsho showed up.
Yeah, all the way down to Florida. If you think of all those drills, and we look at the schedule every morning, and if it was at 10:20, the outfielders would be on the right field line of field 1 doing their drills. Of course, you'd go out there, and the big joke among those drills too is, Mark Budzinski would kind of, what do you want to work on today? George would always say, ask Varsh.
Right.
Ask Varsh what Varsh wants to do.
Yeah. Kiermaier says the same thing, and it's kind of a joke, like kind of tongue-in-cheek, but they like him and respect him so much they actually want to make sure he's okay with whatever drills they've decided to do. And Varsho never says a word, just sits there and smiles all the time. George handles the talking. 0-2 on Alejandro Kirk. And that's strike 3 called over the outside corner. Well, as we mentioned, a big homestand is coming, and that includes a 4-game series with the New York Yankees, May 15th through 18th. All of them night games, all 7:07 starts. Get your tickets now at bluejays.com/tickets. Pretty good former Yankee.
There's a former Yankee.
Yeah. He has changed sides. He is now, of course, the bench coach of the Blue Jays. And still sometimes when the Jays are doing infield before the game, sometimes Donnie Baseball's out there at first base, right? Playing first base, taking the throws.
He was at first base at Fenway Park during the cold, rainy, miserable those afternoons. The days they did hit on the field, he's out there. What do you think it's like having a guy like that now among your coaches when you're going through tough stretches like this? I think it's just tremendous. What a great addition that the Blue Jays made, bringing him into the dugout with John Schneider. Because things can go sideways when you get into a losing streak, when you're not playing very well. But you have that stabilizing fourth guy that's been there and done it a million times, understands this game. You're going to have stretches like that. Just got to keep plugging away, get through it. And so far, so good. Well played game.
And figuratively speaking, Don Mattingly wears a lot of hats. Obviously, he's the bench coach. We have seen and found out that he is often in charge of the other team's running game. Remember the pickoff play, Kevin Gausman at second base? That was a call that came from the dugout from Don Mattingly. As you said, you want to talk to somebody about hitting? Don Mattingly's a pretty good guy to talk to. And what about if Vladdy needs a little extra work at first base? The guy won 9 Gold Gloves. So Don Mattingly can do a lot of different things for this team and is doing a lot of different things.
Spent many mornings over in that little half field in Dunedin there at the complex with Vladdy around that first base bag. All of those hours of repetitions pay off during the regular season.
A little bit of a different looking move and throw over to first there by Hill. Merrifield's aboard with his 2nd hit of the night.
That looked funny. I think Witt's asking the same thing. I thought it looked awfully awkward. Kind of lifting his leg. Okay, yeah, that's borderline balk. I think Witt's got a little bit of a beef there. It's as though he lifted the leg and he was holding it, but then it was coming toward home, yet he still went over there. You got to really be careful where that front leg lands.
Hesitates again, and this time comes to the plate and misses outside.
But you know, this is great, Dan, because this is now what Witt is doing to Hill. He's making him adjust his delivery. Remember what Espinal was doing at first base before the Springer home run and forced him into that little slide step. Left the curveball up in the zone.
2-2. Again, Merrifield the lead, and the pitch on the way to Varsho, and it's outside for ball 3, and Merrifield a delayed steal, and he's in there. How about that?
Well, we talk about Witt's ability to steal third base. It's a shuffle. See what the catcher's doing? He just catches the ball, because if a runner normally steals as a catcher, you'll hear people. With the left-handed batter at the plate, you'll hear runner, so you come up out of your stance. But Hedges is just back there because he didn't hear anything. 2 little shuffles.
Pittsburgh is challenging the safe call at second base.
And right away, Marcano made the signal to challenge, and the Pirates are going to challenge. I don't think Witt ever lost contact with the bag. The call on the field is safe, so the Pirates must think there's a chance they've got some evidence to overturn it, but it looked like he was in there just ahead of it.
Directly into the backside of the second base bag.
Tough to see at that angle.
I don't see anything to overturn it, Dan. The hand looks like it got to the bag before the tag. I wouldn't say the tag was applied before the hand got to the bag. I can't see it being overturned. But how Witt went into the back corner, that's very important here, because if he goes into the other side of the bag, that tag arrives a fraction of a second earlier.
Maybe not surprisingly, a fairly lengthy review, pretty close, but do they have enough to overturn it?
The delay steal is not something you see a whole lot. Most times when a pitcher delivers the ball to the plate, the hitter or the runner is going to shuffle and shuffle. It's a secondary lead. Well, watch, shuffle, shuffle, just like it's a secondary lead, but then he takes off. So as a catcher, you don't hear anything. You don't think he's going, so you stayed back there in your squat. So you catch the catcher off guard. That's the first thing, but I still say going into that back corner of the base, just a fantastic slide. Witt just does so many good things. Understands the game.
And looks like we may have a resolution soon. The umpire, the crew chief, Corey Blazer, will be the one to make the announcement, and he will turn and face home plate or the press box when he does.
The call on the field stands. The runner is safe. Pittsburgh will lose their challenge.
So stands means they didn't have enough to either confirm or deny, so it goes with the call on the field, and the call on the field was safe. And how about the night Whit Merrifield is putting together right now?
And keep an eye on him right now. We've seen him steal third already, and we know he loves to do it.
1 out in the inning, a full count on Varsho. And Varsho draws a walk. And remember, when all this started, Hill got out in front of Varsho 0-2 when Merrifield started messing around with him at first base.
When you can get the pitcher thinking about his delivery, altering his delivery, that's when you get some less than quality pitches. It's exactly what Santiago Espinal was doing over at first base when Hill went to his little abbreviated slide step and he hung a breaking ball to George.
And that is going to be all for Rich Hill tonight, as Derek Shelton is out to the mound and the Pirates are making a move to the pen. That close to one of the Blue Jays, getting some autographs. I tell you folks, you come on the road, you get some access sometimes to the players. Throw to second and back in safely is the runner. as before Dowry Moretta ever threw a pitch, he tried to pick off a runner at second base.
Dowry Moretta struck out 2 of the 6 batters he faced on Tuesday against the Rays, but walks have been an issue. He's issued 12 walks in his 13 1/3 innings of work, so Danny's going to have to be selective. A lot of sliders from the right-hander. Here's that pickoff. Remember the pickoff the Blue Jays put on last week? Watch the catcher's mitt. Pitcher sees it, drops the glove, boom. That's the timing mechanism with the middle infielder. It's something that a lot of teams will use. If you see it as a base runner, get back quickly.
I'll tell you, Whit Merrifield's in their heads right now. He has been a real nuisance out of the base paths, and now he's at second, Varsho's at first. They both run well. There's one out, and there's a right-handed batter at the plate. This is potential double steal territory here.
You watch Varsho going to be keeping an eye on Merrifield. That's for sure.
And look at the jump that Whit got, and there's no throw.
I was hoping Danny would not swing the bat, and it's hard to do to a guy when he's already into the count, but a swing and miss might have been okay there. He had no chance. Look at Whit. He's going. He's just waiting for that pitcher to turn his head. Hedges has no shot. But good job by Varsho. Caboosing from the backside there.
So now the infield in. And a swing and a foul off by Jansen, so it remains 1-2. So keep your eyes on the trail runner now, Dalton Varsho.
He is all over him. He knows Whit's going to steal third. He does it. He's done it his whole career. He's watching. He's watching. He's watching. He's not even watching the pitcher. It's like he's getting a jump. When Whit gets his jump, there he goes. Because sometimes teams will throw backdoor to second base to try to get you.
What a great peek behind the curtain that was. So the trail runner, he knows if Merrifield goes, he goes. So all he has to do is watch Whit.
And they don't always do that. You'll see sometimes the guy will steal third, but the guy in first gets hung there because he wasn't quite paying attention to him trying to get that jump. Now, it's different with Whit Merrifield because we all know he loves to steal third base.
So Merrifield's got 3 stolen bases tonight.
And these are the things, Dan, we talk about the improved outfield defense this year, with Varsho and with Kiermaier. But again, the subtle part is the improved base running. And this is a full season of Whit Merrifield. Remember, he just came at the trade deadline this year, too. He adds some good base running as well.
Bounced in at a full count on Jansen.
Well, they say Austin Hedges does the job behind the plate. Watch where this ball bounces. This is a fantastic block. And that's where you become a goalie. He tried to come up out of that stance a bit to try to get his chest protector on it, and he squared it up beautifully.
And now swing and a miss as Jansen strikes out 2 down.
Well, it's been a struggle for Danny, but he is especially struggling with that breaking ball, and this is just going middle away. See that front side collapse a little bit coming out of his swing.
So 2 down. The infield can back up for the Pirates. Merrifield still at third, Varsho at second, and the batter is Santiago Espinal, who has struck out and walked and scored.
He has a good arm, good fastball, but he throws a ton of sliders to righties.
There's one there, but he missed down and away. 2-0. And a slider in for a strike. 2-1. Fastball down the middle.
That's the pitch that SB does not want to miss, but what happens is you're facing a pitcher that and I told you, he throws a lot of sliders to righties. He saw it against Danny Jansen, and then that freezes you. You're kicking yourself because you missed the fastball.
Fouls off the slider.
We have so many reminders of why hitting is so hard.
Looks a lot easier on TV and from a broadcast booth than it does down there, I would imagine.
Sure does. And when you see on your TV screen a slider or a curveball break a lot, it's breaking a lot.
Like that one. Espinal strikes out, so Moretta strikes out a couple. And the Blue Jays leave a couple of men on. Tickets, visit bluejays.com/tickets.
A combo.
I don't write them, I just read them.
Dan.
But that one fits. And there's the headband. Never see him without it. Bottom 6. And the Blue Jays up 4-0 on the Pirates here at PNC Park. Top of the order, Ji-Hwan Bae has walked and popped up. He just used a timeout, so Chris Bassett will go for a little walk with a 2-strike count.
And you notice Bassett does this when hitters take their timeout. He doesn't just stand on there, man. He goes back, he'll catch his breath, and I think he's probably using that. You know, under the old rules, you could go there, catch your breath, start fresh.
He faced the Pirates a couple of times last year when Bassett was still with the Mets. 13 innings, 1 run, 18 strikeouts. And a roller out to second. Espinal, the short throw on to first, 1 down.
This is the Budweiser home of homers. Don't miss out on purchasing a specially marked case of Budweiser for your chance to win a stay.
A very nice night for a ball game and a very good night so far for Chris Bassett, generating a lot of soft contact off the bats of the Pirates. Now some loud contact and a long run, and Varsho's going to have to play it off the wall. And Brian Reynolds is into second base with his first hit of the night. It's a double. And that'll extend his hitting streak to a 10-gamer.
Well, the Pirates locked him up. Good hitter from both sides of the plate. Remember, a lot of controversy in the winter when he was demanding to be traded. And they were finally able to lock him up over $100 million for 8 years to be a Pittsburgh Pirate. Solid bat in their lineup.
Now a big swing and a miss by Carlos Santana, who has struck out and walked tonight. Thought about it, and on the appeal he managed to check it, so it's a ball and a strike. Not only has Bassett pitched well, but fairly efficient right now. 82 pitches through 5 1/3. Would love to get through this inning and maybe one more if he could, or at least into the 7th inning, give that bullpen a little bit of a rest. There's a high fly ball down the right field line, but foul and out of play. And speaking of bullpens, a roster move for the Blue Jays today. Zach Pop went on the injured list with a hamstring injury, a strained hamstring. And Jay Jackson has been called up to the big leagues and is here in Pittsburgh on the roster and available tonight. 35-year-old who had a very impressive spring for the Blue Jays. And they actually released him because he had a clause in his contract, I think it was March 25th. If he wasn't on the major league roster, if they hadn't said you're going to make the team by March the 25th, they had to release him. So they did, as per his contract. And then 4 days later, he signed a major league deal, so he's on the 40-man roster. But he went to Buffalo. Popped up on the infield. And Jay Jackson, again, a veteran guy who a lot of people are pretty excited about, Joe, what he might be able to offer in the bullpen.
Were you surprised when he was let go in spring? I know he had that clause in his contract, but right. I was surprised that he was still available because he had a good spring, and a lot of people were talking, pretty impressed with what they saw from him. He's been around everywhere. He's a veteran guy, throws a lot of sliders, but I was surprised that maybe somebody didn't take a shot with him at the end of spring.
Right, sign him and say, hey, you'll make our team.
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays said, we'll sign you to a major league deal, so you'll be on the 40-man roster, but you're not going to start the season on the big league club. And here's another pop-up. Bassett is called off by Guerrero, who makes the catch. As Sawinski and the Pirates are retired. 6 scoreless innings for Chris Bassett.
Home run of the season. He got a curveball up in the zone from Rich Hill. Santiago Espinal providing some deception on the bases, maybe making him alter his delivery. Went with the slide step. It didn't quite finish that pitch. Left it up in the zone, and George gave the Blue Jays a 4-0 lead.
It's also grounded out and lined out tonight. The Blue Jays with a run of the first, another in the fourth, and then the 2-run homer from Springer in the fifth. And now one down the right field line towards the corner, but foul. Springer was almost all the way down to first base, just in case that one stayed fair. Pulled foul, 1-2. Another one shot to right field, but this one in play and caught by Andujar, one down. Some interesting series going on around the majors starting tonight. The last team the Blue Jays played is playing the next team the Blue Jays are going to play. The Red Sox are out to a 3-0 lead on the Phillies in the fourth inning in Philadelphia. The Yankees are down at the Trop, and they just scored 4 runs in the 6th inning to tie the Rays at 4. Harrison Bader has hit his first home run of the season. And the Orioles are playing Atlanta, so going to learn a lot about some of the teams in baseball's best division right now. Interesting series for everybody in the American League East this weekend. Baltimore leading Atlanta 2-1, bottom of the 4th. Bo Bichette 1 for 3, doubled and scored in the first inning. And a swing and a miss as Moretta gets him 2 down.
You know, Bo takes a lot of pride in his 2-strike approach, but he just chases that one a little too far out of the zone. Not happy with himself. Doesn't happen too often. I think he goes into that approach so that he can really see the ball deep, and we talked about Moretta being a guy that throws a lot of sliders to righties. He probably knows that and felt he still shouldn't have chased it.
Now Vladimir Guerrero Jr. sends one to the edge of the track in right center, but the catch is made by Jack Sawinski. 7th inning stretch, 4-0 Blue Jays. Full setting. And I would think for John Schneider and company, they've got to be very pleased what they have seen through the first 6.5 innings of this game. Remember the meeting before the game talking about it, attentiveness and things like that, and they have played a much sharper brand of baseball tonight. Whit Merrifield's been all over the place doing things, and Chris Bassett has been really, really good tonight. Charging Bichette, got to hurry. And they got him at first as Andujar is thrown out.
Nice play by Bo. It was the only way he was going to get him. Chris Bassett appreciates the defense. Gloves it and quickly releases it. Watch where he releases this baseball from. You come get it down low, the release stays down low. You don't have time to bring it up. Stayed right down there. Good throw to Vladdy.
And they get Andujar by a half step.
That sinker from Bassett will get in on the hands of those right-handed batters.
Rodolfo Castro has walked and had a base hit. Just 4 hits on the night for the Pirates, 3 singles and a double. And again, they have lost 3 runners on the bases, 2 of them at third base and the other one at home. Cutter misses inside, a ball and a strike.
It's a classic pitch sequence right there by Bassett to a left-handed hitter. First pitch, sinker away. Next pitch, cutter in. So you've got balls going in 2 different directions. One away from him, one in. Coming back in there again. Fastball.
Perfect pitch there with a 2-seamer, 1-2.
So as a hitter, you see the sinker out. You've got the cutter coming in on you. So now you're not sure which way he'll go. Then he comes with the straight one in.
And now Castro is going to use his timeout.
So will Chris.
He can see the clock. He knows how much time there is. He's already called the pitch that he wants to throw. Slow curve fouled off.
Can you not just see the wheel spinning in his head right now? So the sequence that I just went over, he tried to come in with that fastball in the inside corner. So then he comes back with a really slow breaking ball. I mean, you can go anywhere right now, and as a hitter, you're really not sure. But that's why he has so many different weapons.
Ooh. And he hit the bottom of the zone. Sure looked like it, but he doesn't get the call. And now the first sign of any activity in the Blue Jays bullpen here. 93 pitches through 6 1/3. And it looks like Eric Swanson will be getting up.
That's where every once in a while it'll get away from him. Try to make a great pitch there. 2-2. Fly open with that front side, and the arm trails, and it takes off. So now he's going to make a pitch. It's amazing the thought, though, that goes in between each and every pitch.
Up the middle, but playing right there is Bo Bichette. 2 down. Well, John Schneider and Pete Walker would love Bassett to get one more out, get through 7, and leave just 2 innings for the bullpen tonight. And obviously Swanson's in play. He's up. Romano was rested, so it's pretty obvious the way they'd like to play this.
It makes it like a fresh reboot for the rest of the weekend, and then you've got a day off Monday, and just think of all of what they went through in Boston, and the starters weren't necessarily going great, and the bullpen was in shambles, and then you got to play a little catch up, but that day could finally come. And how's it come? You get a good start from the starting pitcher. Simple formula in baseball. Yeah. Just very difficult to execute.
Yeah. Sweeping breaking ball down and in, 2-1.
Only 2 right-handers in the lineup tonight with all the lefties and switch hitters, and he's been very tough on right-handers, but he's handled the lefties well tonight. Lots of those sinkers at the top of the zone. He's used that cutter in.
And outside for ball 4, so a 2-out base runner here in the 7th for the Pirates. A 100 pitches right on the nose for Bassett, and now Danny Jansen's heading out to the mound. And Pete Walker's going to join him. Tomorrow, Hockey Central gets you set for more Stanley Cup playoff action. 6:30 Eastern, 4:30 Mountain on Sportsnet and CBC. Then the Oilers will look to even their series against Vegas. Game 2, 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain on Sportsnet, CBC, and Sportsnet Now. Meeting over and back to work for Bassett. Mark Mathias, the DH, is the batter. He's 0 for 2. A strike of the belt, 0-1. Now to play right side, 0-2. Always talking, always. If this happens, then that. If that happens, then this. Inside for ball one.
Just the second time Danny Jansen has caught Chris Bassitt this year. Right. Remember, he caught his first start, but then with the pitch comm issues and all, Alejandro got back there, and then they kind of got in sync for a little while.
A long hold by Bassitt. And now the 1-2 lined foul down the third baseline.
Sure, anyone could catch Chris Bassitt, but remember in spring training, he was talking a lot all about his lanes and where he wants the catcher setting up, and that was really important to him because he throws such a variety of pitches.
Yeah, by his own admission, very particular. Ahead 1-2 on Mathias, and time was called. So a time violation on Bassitt. That's what it was, a clock violation on Bassitt to add a ball to the count. It's 2-2. And now a ground ball to third. Chapman across the infield. And how about 7 outstanding scoreless innings for Chris Bassitt tonight? Exactly what this Blue Jay team needed. Let's get a Blue Jays Central up with Joe Siddall and Arden Zwelling. I'm Dan Schulman. The opening game of a 3-game series, 4-0 Blue Jays. Outstanding performance from Chris Bassitt tonight. And it's on to the top of the 8th inning as Derek Shelton has gone to his bullpen again.
Chase DeYoung was just reinstated from the injured list. Appeared in the game with the Pirates last back on April the 12th. Made 3 appearances. 1 start in his rehab at AAA Indianapolis. Vince Velasquez was put on the IL, and that's a tough one for Derek Shelton's club.
Elbow problem.
Starting pitcher.
Chase DeYoung, originally a 2nd-round pick of the Blue Jays a long time ago, back in 2012. And he was eventually traded to the Dodgers in 2015 along with Tim LeCastro for some international bonus money, extra money to use on international players. Pitches outside, 2-1 on Matt Chapman.
Has started in the past, pitched 42 games out of the bullpen for the Pirates last year, but with that starting history, he's got the 4-pitch mix. Fastball, slider, curveball, and changeup.
In at the knees, 2-2 now on Chapman. Curveball that slips out of his hand, full count. Chapman, Kirk, and Merrifield coming up. I'm sure the last thing the Pirates want to see right now is Whit Merrifield anymore with all the problems that he's caused them tonight. Blue Jays kind of turned the tables and have done to the Pirates tonight what they might have been a little bit worried the Pirates were going to do to them. Hammered foul down the line.
Well, you said it. Something had to give tonight. 2 teams in the middle of losing streaks, and the Pirates just got swept by the Rays. Blue Jays 4 unforgettable days in Boston. But John Schneider said it this afternoon. His club has responded, playing a very good game, and it all begins on the mound with a good start from Chris Bassitt.
Chapman aboard with a leadoff walk. You know, the funny thing about life in some of the other divisions, the Pirates lost 4 in a row. and didn't lose anything off their lead in the division, because second place Milwaukee lost 4 in a row. So they're still a game and a half up. You know, and you look at the standings, we talked about them last night for just a moment. St. Louis is 10-22, and that's a team obviously expected to contend. If you're the Pirates, you know, Cincinnati's 5 games under. They're not expected to be a contender. The Cubs are better, but I don't know that they're ready to contend yet. If you're the Pirates, do you start dreaming about a 2-team race with Milwaukee for a division title? It's really early, but they've definitely taken some strides forward. But that might be too big of a stride. We'll see.
It's early for sure.
Chapman the lead, 2-1 the count on Kirk. And up high for ball 3. DeYoung having trouble finding the strike zone tonight. And it's back-to-back walks to bring Merrifield to the plate. And we'll go down to Arden Swelling for more.
Well, Witt's got 3 stolen bases here tonight, and we're going to show you his 2 steals of third, which is something that he's better at than anyone in the game. Merrifield now has 61 steals of third since he entered the league in 2016. That leads MLB in that span. 8 players, only 8 have even attempted 30 steals of third since 2016. Witt's attempted 66, and he's now been successful on 92% of them.
So, Joe, he's fast, but there are faster guys. What makes him as good as he is at stealing third base?
What's between his ears? It's his baseball IQ. Because when you're stealing third base, and many guys will tell you it's actually easier to steal third because pitchers do not pay enough attention. So the pitcher will come set. Sometimes they'll give you one look. They'll look back at the catcher. They'll deliver home. They get into patterns. And when pitchers get into patterns like that, these guys right here will just eat you up. And that's what Witt can do.
Ground ball to third. Step on the bag for 1 and across the diamond for a double play. Kirk is at second. Now 2 outs.
So it's more about timing. It's about getting off the second base bag a decent distance, but it's more about keeping your feet moving, get that shuffle kind of going, and then when you get the right jump, you're really cutting down your distance. Now it's a shorter throw for the catcher,
right?
But when you get that big jump, we saw it. It's almost impossible for a catcher.
And the second one, he got going so early that if Moretta had been able to, you know, maybe he just steps off and throws, and now Nathan Lucas is going to come in and run for Alejandro Kirk. And again, Kirk's the DH, and you're just trying to get an extra run here if Varsho comes up with a base hit. So Lucas in there, much more likely to score on a base hit than Kirk would be. Varsho 1 for 2, a strikeout, an RBI double, and a walk. Obviously, if Kirk were catching, much less likely to make this move, but since he's the DH, really no downside to putting Lucas in there right now, just trying to steal another run.
Feel good with a 4-0 lead, not thinking his spot's going to come up again.
Lucas the lead, 2 down, a ball and 2 strikes to count on Varsho. A changeup misses up and away. Long look back, and now again the 2-2. And poked to left field. And Reynolds is there to retire the side. So we'll go to the bottom of the 8th here in Pittsburgh with the Blue Jays leading 4-0. Bassett with 7 scoreless innings, 105 pitches. Got a little bit of help from the Pirates running around like crazy and getting thrown out, but that should not detract from the outstanding performance of his tonight.
No, you do not want to give a guy like that any help on a night that he is pitching very, very well. I thought he'd used that sinker at the top of the zone very effectively, especially with that cutter as well against all of these left-handed hitters. Eric Swanson in now for the Blue Jays, and Swanson will try to keep this a 4-0 game. Do you hand it over to Jordan Romano after this? We'll see.
And Derek Shelton has sent up a pinch hitter, Connor Joe, who generally is the starting right fielder. But again, we told you he was one of the 2 guys out of the lineup, a little bit sore after a 3-game series down at Tropicana Field. But he is going to bat for Austin Hedges. Joe, a guy who was originally drafted by the Pirates, spent a few years here, bounced around here, there, and then re-signed this offseason, and as you can see from the numbers, off to a very, very strong start. Looks at a strike, and it's 1-2. So this is the 9 spot in the order. Ji-hwan Bae and Brian Reynolds still to come here in the 8th inning.
Swanson becomes very unpredictable against right-handed hitters. He'll use the fastball slider and he'll use the splitter. Lefties, it's pretty much fastball splitter.
Fastball line to center. And directly at Varsho. Jay Jackson, as we mentioned, is now with the Blue Jays, with Zach Pop going on the IL with a hamstring injury. Hopefully nothing too serious for Zach Pop, and maybe just the minimum 15 days. But Jackson, 35 years of age, released, re-signed, was down in Buffalo, had a couple of outings in mid-April that kind of spiked his ERA. Since then, very good. 15 strikeouts, only 2 walks with Buffalo this year. And a guy who said often in the spring, hey, he's 35, he wants to win, and he signed with the Blue Jays because he feels they have a chance to have a special season. And he's got some major league experience, 4 different teams, parts of 4 seasons. Be interesting to see when and how the Blue Jays utilize him. Ji-hwan Bae 0 for 2 with a walk. And a roller to second. And Bae stopping halfway down the line. Might be something wrong with him. Ball's going around the infield. He ran a few steps and then just put the brakes on and never got anywhere after that.
Almost at the end of his swing, he may have felt something.
Makes his way back into the dugout where he'll get a little bit more attention. 2 down on the bottom of the 8th for Brian Reynolds. Reynolds 1 for 3, doubled his last time up. Fouled it off. Good location on that splitter. It's 0-2. David Bednar is up. Remember, the Pirates have been losing. Bednar's their closer, so he hasn't pitched in a while. Looks like he's going to get some work here tonight. The 0-2. And he got him. A 3-up, 3-down inning for Eric Swanson, and it's still 4-0 Blue Jays.
Wants to win a World Series with this organization, as Dan said. It's the one thing missing from his resume. This is a big league reliever, guys. Over 25 MLB appearances across the last 2 seasons. He has a 1.21 ERA plus. He is capable of getting outs at this level.
Arden, thank you. And yeah, he was very, very impressive in the spring. And it was a very tough decision, I think, that the Blue Jays had. Do they put him on the big league roster or do they let him go as per his contract? So they released him, but then they re-signed him, and they are very happy to have him back because, as the old saying goes, you can never have enough pitching. And now, unfortunately, with the injury to Zach Pop, an opportunity has been created for Jackson as David Bednar is into the game. And you can see from the numbers, this is one of the better closers in the game.
Picked up his 9th save on Saturday in a doubleheader game against Washington. But it's low walks, high strikeouts coming at you. Fastball's averaging 96 with the curveball on the changeup.
And he strikes out Danny Jansen.
Anytime you see that disparity in walks and strikeouts, he has been very, very good. Also only given up 8 hits in his 13 innings of work.
Now Santiago Espinal 0 for 2 with a walk. His walk immediately preceding the George Springer home run back in the 5th. That gave the Blue Jays a little bit more of a cushion, made it 4-0, which is the way it is right now still.
That's a sharp breaking ball to go with 96, 97 mile per hour fastball.
And he seems to put that fastball right about where he wants to put it every single time, as Jordan Romano is now up in the bullpen. Been a while since Romano has pitched, so even with a 4-run lead, they're going to send him out there to try to put this 5-game losing streak in the rearview mirror.
How much do you think they consider going into a non-save situation? We hear that so much in baseball about closers coming in, and I think we all know that closers tell me that, yeah, it is different. It shouldn't be, but for whatever reason, the adrenaline's not the same. You're not feeling that feeling of coming in and closing out a game. But you certainly want to make sure he gets his work so he's sharp next time.
Although I don't think it was an automatic he would pitch tonight. Like if they score 2-3 runs here, I think Jay Jackson's probably coming in, right?
I think so.
But 4-0 and the losing streak, and you just want to say,
gotta have
done.
it.
Right. Yeah. Espinal stays alive. Springer on deck. And a long 2-run homer to left center earlier in the game. The other runs for the Blue Jays driven in by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Dalton Varsho. And now swing and a miss as Espinal strikes out, 2 down.
He has that high spin fastball. He gets good extension. Those are characteristics that really amplify the 96 mile per hour fastball that you're seeing. And to a hitter, that has to feel or look like 100. Years ago, Dan, we'd walk back to the dugout and the hitter would say, that ball's got some giddy up on it. It's got an extra gear. But now we can measure things. Right. And that's the fascinating part about science. And now you know you have reasons why this ball looks the way it does.
Back to the mound off the bat of Springer, and the Blue Jays go in order in the top of the 9. So bottom 9, 4-0, and Jordan Romano making his way into the mound here at PNC Park. Chet, Guerrero, Merrifield, Varsho involved in the offense as well. And now Jordan Romano looking for the last 3 outs.
Jordan has 9 saves. That's tied for second in the American League behind Emmanuel Clase with 10. This is not a save situation for Romano, but he will come in and get some work. He hasn't pitched since Monday in Boston. And yes, we remember Monday in Boston. It was the walk-off homer by Alex Verdugo in the bottom of the 9th inning. So Jordan trying to get back on track with a little bit of work here.
Carlos Santana is going to lead it off, 0 for 2 with a walk. 3-4-5 for the Pirates. Santana Sawinski, and Andujar. And a fastball is popped up. Espinal waits and takes one down. Well, I think if you're John Schneider, the most important thing is to win. But I think right behind that tonight would be the manner in which they have played this game tonight, for it to be a much cleaner game than we saw in Boston.
It has to just eat at you as a manager when John preached all spring long about attention to detail and the focus in those things, and then you play a series like that after coming off such a great streak. And I mean, they're humans. It's baseball. It's 162. It's going to happen. You will have stretches like that. I think the good teams are the teams that are going to go somewhere, try to end them abruptly.
A ball and a strike on Jack Sawinski, who's 0 for 3. $24,810 here tonight, and I would say 3,000 to 4,000 Blue Jay fans, don't you think?
A lot of blue on the right side.
The yellow has faded away a little on the third base side, but the folks in blue are happy to stay right until the end, and a lot of them around that first base dugout.
Little decoy by Danny there, saying, hitting the ground, saying, hey, make sure you get the slider down there. Nope, up top with 97.
So the Blue Jays an out away from ending their 5-game losing streak. The batter, Miguel Andujar. In there for a strike, 1-1.
That tells me a hitter's gearing up for that 97 the way he was flying out of there. Come back with another slider.
Ground ball down to third. Chapman has it, and the Blue Jays win it. A 1-2-3, bottom of the ninth for Jordan Romano, as Bassett, Swanson, and Romano combine on a 4-hit shutout tonight. Springer's all smiles, hit one out of the ballpark. A big night for Whit Merrifield as well, stole 3 bases. And they feel a lot better about themselves now than they did 24 hours ago.
What are the chances George just said, guys, we won. We won a baseball game. This has to feel good for everyone dressed in those Blue Jays unis tonight, and it's the manner in which they won, Dan. A well-pitched game, played some good defense, just played a good, clean baseball game, and that's what this team needed desperately.
So they are now 19-14 as they put the 5-game losing streak to bed. We're back with you tomorrow night for another game between the Blue Jays and the Pirates, but right now it's time for Sportsnet Central with Martine.